Thanks, Dale, for the warm introduction. I'm delighted to be here to talk about the exciting work we're doing in the Agentic AI space. Thanks to SnapLogic for inviting me here. I do hope you'll find it both interesting and also useful with some learnings along the way that you'll be able to take forward in your own business. I'm David Holton. I'm the CTO at a bank called Cambridge and Counties Bank. We've called this session Building the Engine for Growth, because that's exactly what this is all about here. We've approached the AI opportunity through the lens of how do we get more from the resources we already have, rather than looking just through a single focus of cost reduction. So this is really about a material growth in assets for us. Most of the things I read about in the AI space are about the cost reduction. We're looking at it through a different lens. So I hope this is interesting for you. Let's start with a little bit about Cambridge and Counties Bank. So I'll begin with a little bit of context so you understand who we are. It'll also help to bring to life a little bit more about what we are doing and why. Cambridge Counties Bank is a specialist lender focused on supporting the UK's SME businesses operating primarily in the real estate and asset finance sectors. By specialist bank, what I really mean there is we support customers that are usually left aside by the traditional high street banks. So they've got a slightly more sophisticated need that requires a little bit more in-depth knowledge on the customer. And that's where we come in with there. Other things I think that are relevant to our challenge here is in UK financial services, it's a heavily regulated industry, and therefore the risk considerations for us are extremely important, and that'll become really valid when I go through what it is we're building alongside Snap. Our ability to audit and demonstrate what we've done and why is absolutely essential as we design and build out that any technology solution really, but especially in this space. And then finally, we are a business that really gets to know its customers and understand their businesses. We take time to understand what the ask is. We take a view on credit quality and risk in order to provide customers with the support they need. And to do this, we have a group of highly skilled, highly experienced colleagues who manually underwrite each and every loan decision. And again, that will become increasingly more important as I run through the session today. The human element of these interactions is incredibly important to us and is often called out as valuable by our customers as well. Okay, so if you think conceptually, we are a bank that is highly personable and highly manual in that regard. So then think about that in the context of then looking to automate through agentic AI and why some of the things that we're considering are equally as important. So if I move on here, what is it that we're going to be looking at today? So what I want to cover is the business case that we've crafted. I'll talk a little bit about the architecture that moved from pilot into production, how we're looking to do that. I'll consider how we view governance and what's required to ensure that what we're doing is both safe and compliant. Again, a critical thing for UKFS. Then I'll finish with some thoughts on the impact we expect this to have and also what we'll be measuring. Now, along the way, I'll try and call out some of the challenges we've had, some of the learnings, so you don't repeat some of the mistakes that we might have made as we've gone on this quite exciting journey with SnapLogic. So the reality versus the ambition in financial services and asset finance in particular for us. So what is it we're looking at here? Looking at the business case to start, we want to grow our asset finance business from 100 million a year to 300 million a year from this single investment in agentic AI. Asset finance is around about 10% of the bank's balance sheet, but it's a key strategic growth ambition for us. We were looking at a more traditional platform play to fuel that growth, but my view was that's only really going to bring us into parity with our peers, whereas the emerging capabilities of AI could give us an opportunity to truly leapfrog the peers in the industry. And I think catch up was one thing, but actually going over and above was what we were really interested in doing. And again, that's why we were speaking to Snap about the capabilities that this technology might be able to bring us over and above what we were just seeing elsewhere in the market. We were already working with SnapLogic and with their integration platform, so we'd reached out to discuss the AI potential and was quite excited by the opportunity that that would bring. I'll come back to exactly why Snap versus the myriad of other providers in this space when I discuss the architecture later. So I really think that'll bring to life why we chose Snap as a partner rather than others in that. The asset finance market is different to that of the real estate market. It's much more reliant on pace and speed of response. Our brokers love dealing with us, our customers love dealing with us, but they find us slow. We only get a portion of the business that they would give us if our service was faster. And our teams, as you can see there, our teams are all at capacity with what we're doing today. It's a very manual touch process. It's got multiple touch points and handoffs. And to grow at the rate of our ambition, we really need a 3x improvement here in how we operate. And we're looking to get to that point as quickly as we can. So we're not known for pace, and this is all about pace. We're not known for being hugely automated. This was all about how do we bring automation into what has previously been a very manual world. So let's take a look at delving deeper into the problem statement. So our brokers usually want a same day response. However, our sales teams can't package the applications quick enough. Our underwriters can't review them quickly enough. And the manual process that we've got introduces data errors that require quite a bit of rework, which gives us an inconsistent quality and a slow response time. The end-to-end process itself can sometimes take us up to a week to respond. I've seen cases personally where by the time we've gone back to the broker with an approval, the deal has already been approved, assessed, and drawn down elsewhere. So it's not only frustrating for our brokers, but it's also cost us a whole week's worth of work. And that's clearly not where we wanted to be there. If I break down the steps in a little bit more detail, then demonstrate why this takes us so long, keep in mind how manual this is and where you think AI might be able to play a part, because I think you'll be able to see this as we go through this. So at the start of the process, we've got a lot of data extraction and transformation to take from a broker submission and convert that into our current application template. We don't always have all the information at hand, so there's often a little bit of back and forth with the broker or with the customer to get this. And we perform a number of other searches on the business and go back and forth again with the submitter to gain additional information that we need. Our credit team then perform a number of searches themselves, both out in the market and again with the across the multiple platforms and also with the submitter there to get additional information to aid the credit decision. So what you'll notice here is a lot of data extraction, a lot of data manipulation, checking of multiple systems and completion of templates all across just to get the right documentation and analysis to complete one asset finance deal. And it's that structure that made me believe when we look at the problem statement here that this was a prime case for agentic AI transformation, and which is why we're making the investments we are in building this out. So what have we done then? Setting off on the AI journey, we agreed a number of core principles that were important both to me but also the bank, that were going to guide the work that SnapLogic are supporting. Firstly, there's a real need to be a compelling area with a real challenge and quantifiable with an opportunity to improve. I'm sure you'll agree that we found that with there. I wouldn't look at something that was side of desk and not big enough really to incorporate that big return. It was really important that we found something that was going to be high impact. It was also important to keep the business at the forefront of this and to co-create with colleagues in there. Having business users help along the way has been invaluable. We've discovered more about how our process works by working directly with users in this way than we would have done if we tried to do that in isolation. And there was a lot of opportunity or a lot of requests to try and do this in a darkened room on our own and then bring the solution into the bank. I think the right thing has been to work very closely with teams on the ground to get their input, also to get their buy-in as we've gone along. I mentioned earlier on how important the governance and oversight is in UKFS. Everything we design needs to be easily checked, needs to be easily verified. I'm also going to go a little bit further on this point and say that a key part of the proposition is the knowledge and experience that our colleagues have got. And I want to enhance the use of this, not to replace it. And that's a key tenet of our AI strategy here. The technology must replace the non-value add but important steps in the process, but keep the human in the loop for the critical value add elements. I think it's that balance that I believe will give us the right mix and it'll ensure we deliver the economic benefits, but not at the cost of either the customer or the colleague experience. Both of those things are really important, I think, when you're looking at where AI can play in your business. I'll come on the architecture in a bit more detail, but it's important to understand how to construct the agents. So keeping their tasks as small as possible and as limited in scope as possible helps to ensure that the agent does what you need it to and no more. I think it's far better to have a dozen agents doing a dozen specific tasks rather than one agent trying to do everything. The opportunity for error in that situation is far greater. So we've constructed this in a much more modular way. And then finally, it's essential to have really quantifiable and meaningful outcomes that you can measure. So we've baked our benefits directly into our business case and this year's financial plan, which fully aligns the work we're doing on the transformation side with business performance. And one of the key things we've got SnapLogic supporting us with is the ability to capture and track back some of the actions we've taken and the benefits that we would like to see. So the architecture here is incredibly important, and SnapLogic is the single control plane governing what runs, when it runs, and in what sequence. And think about this as every request to the agent flows through this centralized orchestration agent, which ensures policy enforcement, escalation logic are applied consistently across the entire process. So we've got the one agent effectively through the Snap platform governing what everybody else does there, back to the point of having a dozen agents doing a dozen different things. I think that orchestration piece is really critical in there. The monitoring of agent behavior is in a single pane of glass. That means we can govern, debug, and visualize that agent behavior. Through Snap, you'll see some of the things like Companies House, Credit Safe, Experian. A lot of the connections that we already have elsewhere, Snap already had pre-built connectivity to the enterprise data sources. So connecting to those didn't need any customized connection development. That's undoubtedly saved us time and saved us money as we've gone through this as well, which is good. You'll see to the right hand side of the screen a very small box with HITL in there. Typical techies have put that in the smallest font possible. Actually, as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the most important pieces here. This is our human in the loop bit. And again, what I talked about earlier on, it's absolutely essential to us that we maintain the human ability to do what we do, and we've got the agents effectively looking at that lower value work. And I think that's going to set us up really well when we launch this to market, because from a customer point of view, they will see the same human interactions they've seen previously, but we will get the benefit internally and then pass that benefit on to the customer through greater pace and greater capabilities. This isn't about replacing our humans with a lot of agents. So, for example, on the human in the loop piece, if an orchestration agent identifies a discrepancy or has a low degree of confidence in something that it's done, escalation of a human review is pretty much automatic and auditable. And again, that ability to audit is really important for us. Another key part of the architecture here is that each sub-agent, so the intake, the CGM, the AML agents, as you see on the screen, which are very specific to our asset finance business, is a discrete SnapLogic pipeline. So that means individual agents can be updated, they can be tested, they can be replaced without having to rebuild the broader system. So this modular approach to the architecture is really smart and really helpful here. And that lays the foundation to scale to other areas of the bank. Because the great thing about this, and again, another reason why I chose SnapLogic to build this rather than myriad other tech firms who are currently pitching this is the repeatability we've got across the rest of the bank. I can already see, and my peers can already see, a lot of other use cases once we prove this out with asset finance. I want to talk to you a little bit about the governance and compliance, because again, anyone else on this call who's from UKFS will be, as I am, really interested in the compliance and the governance element of this, and it's really important. So the autonomy of the agents are controlled by a deterministic rule set, with the orchestration agent, as I've said, ensuring that the agents act in the way that is intended. The Snap platform allows us to program this in a single pane and audit this whenever we need, which is absolutely essential. And the agents deliver then a confidence score when playing back their work. The output to that is in a very structured way, which is helpful. And that allows us to review consistently and then apply that human in the loop review whenever needed. Everything an agent does is recorded and is available to audit, as is the human interaction. Again, that's really important. You don't have this in a normal process that you've got. We can audit what the humans do, the prompts, the decisions that are made, etc. All of that is neatly recorded. And I'm hoping that once we get the MI through this, we'll be able to transition from a retrospective view, which is what I've got today with the business, into pretty much real-time reporting, which in itself will be quite transformational for the bank. And then finally, we've kept the tasks small and contained so that the prompts and the complex tasks are split into smaller LLM calls. That's designed to make it easier for us to test the outcomes, make sure the agents are doing what they're doing, and just keeps the scope of each agent request as narrow as possible, which helps with the confidence scores as well. In terms of the operational impact we're looking to have here, we're targeting a 3x capability uplift, which gives us the ability to grow the business from 100 million, 300 million, as it said earlier on. That's without the need for any additional people. So historically, up to this point, most of the bank's growth has been, because we're very manual and we're very human focused, has been the bank grows, we add more people, the bank grows, we add more people, etc. I'm looking to break that direct relationship between income growth and cost growth, but not by replacing humans in that interaction, by effectively automating the non-value add tasks. And I think the agentic AI capability really gives us the opportunity to do that. So the people we do have should end up with far better roles and more time available for that direct broker and direct customer contact and less time on admin. So this is about automating the work, not the people in that. And we should be able to rely on then the additional capacity created and significantly reduce those response time to brokers and customers. So we're going for a mix of business growth with better high value roles for colleagues, which I think is a really compelling pitch to our colleagues as well as it is to our customers and our brokers. So how would I talk about the top takeaways there? I think we focused our use case on an area of clear pain to us and operational inefficiency. That's helped to craft a measurable and clear strategic objective, as I think you'll probably agree. Haven't heard the story there. There's a lot of use cases out there where I think it often feels like technology looking for a problem to solve, or you need a real shift in behavior to see the opportunity. I'd suggest looking at a point of high operational friction where the benefit of reducing that is really clear. So start with a problem and see where the technology can get, much the same as in other worlds, but I think the agentic AI space especially. I was very clear in this phase that I wanted to automate work, not decisions, as we've spoken about previously. I do see a role for AI to play in the decision making at some point, but only once we've run it for a while, once we've seen the benefits come through, once we are comfortable with the outputs that we're getting. The good thing about the way we're building this with Snap and the capability of the technology is I might get 3x on day one, but by building it in this way, you could transition that to 5 to 10x in the future if you allow the technology to do more without necessarily needing to do a whole host of extra development. So that future capability piece is quite exciting in there. And then finally, one of the benefits we found doing this on the Snap platform was the not having a need to modernize everything else around it. So, the beauty of what we've been able to do with Snap is because of the connectivity, because of the integration platform that we've got here, we didn't need to then go and modernize everything else before we started. We could keep what we already have. We could have the onboarding system we wanted. We could have the back end system we wanted. And you didn't have to go and change all of that as you would have done with them with a different provider. Um, it's allowed us to develop and evolve that existing governance that we had, and and build that through and take what we were good at and excel with that rather than have to replace everything pretty much from scratch. So I hope that's been a useful summary, and a brief deep dive into the work we're doing. We are really excited about this landing. It should be out in the public domain within the next month to 6 weeks. And I'm really excited about the capability that we've got here. So thank you for listening. I hope it's been interesting for you. I hope you've learned something from our experiences. And I'll pass back to Dale. Thank you very much.